Hello, hello, and welcome to another podcast episode of Overpowering Emotions, where I talk all things big emotions, emotion regulation, and we are wrapping up our journey of resilience 2024. I'm continuing the journey, of course, we must. But I really am excited to jump into today's episode because we're setting the foundation for the next part of the resilience journey as we head into the new year. It's really the perfect time to think about the growth that we want to see in our kids and in our students or the children that we work with and how we can help guide them there. Now, a couple of weeks ago and through the weeks, I've been really looking at reflecting the growth that kids have shown over the past year. If you missed any episodes, take a few minutes just to think back about the moments where kids might have shown bravery or good emotion regulation, just any moments that really stood out. Those little victories count just as much as any big ones. And so, you know, it's really important that we're acknowledging the progress that kids make so that they're not always feeling frustrated that there's something wrong and why can't I handle my emotions and why can't I be braver and why can't I, whatever else is going on. It's just as easy to focus on what's next without ever celebrating how far they've actually come. So that just feels like this overwhelming journey. But growth really does build on itself. And we want to make sure that they are recognizing those steps. And then that helps give us where are they at now, how far have they come, what's worked, what's not worked. And now here they are. That's the jumping off point of where we're going to go. So we're going to take this further, and that's what I'm going to start focusing on in the new year is where do we still need to go? So first, though, it's a great opportunity now to ask kids what they want to get better at. Maybe it's speaking up more in class. Maybe it's handling tough situations with friends. Maybe it's pushing through schoolwork when it gets tricky or being braver, walking to school or asking someone out on a date, whatever those things are. Every child is different. When we look at resilience, it's not a one size fits all, right? It really shows up differently for everyone. And kids and teens, they usually feel stronger when they know where they'd like to go. So then we can work backwards from there. So the idea here is to set that resilience intention for the year ahead. It's not a long list of goals. We're going to focus on one or two areas. And actually, every month, I'm going to focus on a key skill that we're going to build on. This isn't about pressure and must do it. It's just more of creating a reminder, a way to keep our eyes open, right? Looking intentionally at the growth that they've made, but also the growth that we're aiming for and finding small ways to really work on that over time. When we're inviting kids, I mean, really, they are the leaders, they are the CEO of this whole process. And so when they're part of that process, it's really going to stick better. They're going to feel more ownership, right? And then we are sort of their consultants. How do we help support you in this journey that you have? And it just feels way more collaborative that way. And we're working as a team. So, looking at how can we approach this conversation? Because I know the minute any of us have a conversation, I think it might be easier if you're a teacher and you're going to have a conversation as a class. But parents who are going to talk one-on-one with their kids, they're probably going to get eye roll. Oh, I don't want to talk about this. Why are we talking about this? This is so stupid. So, just looking at how can we have this conversation in a way that feels productive and supportive. I'm always first saying make it fun, right? We want to make sure it's a relaxed, comfortable environment that's actually there's positive energy, not, this is punishing. So be relaxed, have that nice relaxed tone. It's not meant to feel like formal goal setting or punishment or you should do better. It's none of that, right? Food is a great way to bring us together. So maybe it's over hot chocolate on a Saturday afternoon. Maybe it's during a quiet drive. I know in my house it really is about the food. So let's have some snacks and we're going to have this discussion. Then we get to play a fun game afterwards. So the key is really just to make that space feel open and welcoming and safe, obviously, right? That this is about growth. It's not about fixing anything that's broken. That's really important as well. They're probably going to be a little bit hesitant, but we're going to lead by example. Maybe share the growth that you've seen for your own self and what you'd like to continue working on, right? Maybe it's staying calm under pressure at work. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's being a better listener with your kids. So once we've sort of laid that foundation, we're going to ask open-ended questions. So instead of saying, what do you need to work on? Right? model what you're working on, right? And now let's brainstorm. What areas do you feel like you want to be a little bit stronger or a little bit more confident about, in this upcoming year? We really want to make sure it's feeling like a choice and not an obligation, right? If your kiddo is really struggling with an answer, just again, reflect on some of those moments from the past year. That's why it's really helpful to reflect on that growth. I've noticed you working really hard at handling that frustration when you're working on math, right? That could be a piece that you're still working on. We're just really offering gentle observations just to help them identify areas that they might not have thought about. And that's important. It's not that we're blaming and saying, you still need to work on this. Maybe it's about, hey, I've noticed the overwhelm when you're trying. This is maybe true in my own house. I've noticed that you've gotten better with the overwhelm when you're cleaning your room, but there's still, I noticed, just the other day, you got almost to the end. And there was one last piece, and then, that overwhelm took over. So you've made so much progress, but that could be an area, right? So we're looking at that. We're also really focusing on the progress. It's not about getting everything perfect and everything right and being able to regulate our emotions all the time and being brave all the time, right? It's about trying, it's about learning, it's about bouncing back. When things don't go as planned, I can handle it and I can keep going. So we can talk about, I love how you kept trying. The other day when you're cleaning your room, you got so overwhelmed, you got really frustrated. And I really love that you came and took a break and you came and chatted with me about it. And then you went back, right? And tried to do a little bit more. That's what resilient is about. Because a year ago, you just would have said, oh, I can't do it. And then you would have completely stormed out of your room and never to look back. And it might have been a little bit of a fight and conflict. So we can look at, you've come this far. Let's see how we can build on that just a little bit more, tweak it a little bit more. We want to make sure it's small and manageable as well. So just focusing really on one or two intentions to keep things realistic, to prevent that overwhelm, right? So maybe it is to talk up in class a little bit more. Maybe it is a little bit more patience when they're, managing conflict with their friends. So it's looking at what's one small thing that you can do today, right? It's those small, consistent steps that are going to have the bigger impact over time rather than trying to do everything all the time perfectly all at once. That's just going to fail. So it's one thing. How would I know that you are being patient with a friend? Maybe your arms are relaxed by your side. Maybe you're listening to them. You might even be reflecting back what you heard. Oh, you wanted to go on the monkey bars, not the swings. Right? So you're just really being there, looking at your friend, right? So what's one of those things that you're going to practice today, even if it's not a fight, even if you're agreeing? At recess time, what can you practice? Or at lunchtime in the cafeteria, what's the one thing that you can practice and try to just bring intention to it? And really, the key here is making sure that they feel like you're part of the team, that they're not alone, that you're not, trying to tell them what to do. So we are there like consultants. We're offering our support. So this is, I hear you say, this is what you want to work on. How can I help you with this? Is there something that I can do or something that we can work on together to support you? When they feel like you are really their consultant, you're in their corner, there to support them, they're more likely to stay committed. We want to make sure through the year, and I'll be talking about this as we go too, as we're building on these skills. I mean, just remembering that it's not going to happen overnight. Just because I set the intention for tomorrow, that tomorrow I do it, things are going to happen overnight. Growth takes time, resilience takes time, building bravery takes time. So we want to make sure that we're recognizing all of those small wins to keep that motivation going because our brain wants us to forget the success that we've had. And so we really need to make sure every time we see a kiddo handling a situation differently, right, than they would have yesterday or a few months ago, we want to celebrate that and be very specific. I saw how you stuck with that, even though it was, really hard. I'm so proud to see you using your strategies. I really saw the difference because your friend actually opened up. Normally they shut down, and I saw the difference. They opened up And then they let it off and you guys went and had fun. So we're acknowledging that effort. That's what's going to reinforce that intention that they set and keep them motivated to keep trying it. Now, anything that we do, it's not a linear journey, right? We know that there's going to be setbacks. We know that there's going to be times where they're not as brave, where they're not as patient, where things sort of fall apart. That's part of the process. If it doesn't go as planned, we want to reflect on it. Hey, that was to be expected. The unexpected was to be expected. That was really hard, but I know you're still learning. What worked? What didn't work? What would need to happen for next time? This is where learning actually happens. And I want to do an episode on that, where learning happens through those setbacks, quote unquote setbacks or mistakes, or where things sort of go sideways. Resilience grows through these experiences, especially those challenging ones. That's where resilience lies. And so we want to make sure we're having these conversations. So, like I said, as caregivers and a family, we're going to have that family meeting. We're bringing in food. We're going to have fun. In a classroom, we can ask students, where you're going to work a few minutes on looking at what skills you want to improve or what you want to explore. Maybe it's, working more independently. Maybe it's participating more. Maybe it's getting along with different classmates. I mean, just looking at small conversations, and you can group students together based on different skills that they want to work on. We're shifting that focus to that growth in a natural, sort of encouraging way. So we're going to start those conversations, and we're doing this process too. We're going to be talking about the areas that we are working on, looking at our growth that we've made, but where we're going to next. And we really want to model all of that. Okay, because if they see us working on our own resilience goals and our own skill building goals, even if it's just being more patient or being more flexible with them, they're going to pick up on that, right? It's not about perfection. It's about showing up consistently. It's being open about the process and doing the process. Like I said, I'm going to dive deeper into specific skills and ways to build them at home or in the classroom or whatever your role is when you're working with kids in the new year. But for now, it's really about taking some time to talk with kids about those resilience intentions. Make sure they write them down, keep them visible. That's a gentle reminder of the growth that they're working on, how you're going to support, and you can have your own sort of journey there as well. So that's the homework, is to have this conversation and write these down. And maybe it just starts with some brainstorming ideas and then you whittle them down. Next week, we're into the new year, and we're going to be looking at specific skills. And I'm going to be starting again with emotional intelligence. I think it's something that we want to keep coming back and readdressing. I know some of it might just be a good little review if you've been following along with me, but I'll be giving very specific strategies over the next month on how we can build that emotional intelligence. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how this process goes. If there's any areas you'd like me to focus on in future episodes, if you have any questions. Until then, keep those kiddos bold and courageous, and I will see you next time.